Nintendo Switch and Wii U ports have an interesting relationship. It dates back to the launch of the console, and it's still going strong now with the recent release of New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. This is a couple that can't keep themselves away from each other. They love to be together, and there are plenty of reasons why, Gabe. We're looking at the data from New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. The sales figures in the UK are quite impressive. They realized that initially they thought it was 24.8% higher sales than the initial launch on Wii U, and hey, they were actually wrong. It's 56% higher, which is a substantial increase over the game's initial release. And when we dove deeper into the last year's worth of ports, we found similar success across the entire board.
So for anybody that asks themselves why we get so many ports on Nintendo Switch, this is the reason. And we are going to be talking very region-specific things here, but do keep in mind that that's probably a sentiment that is echoed throughout other regions that just don't happen to share any data. So it is important to keep that in mind, but Zach, I am super surprised that New Super Mario Bros. U, 56% higher is crazy.
Yes, and this is in the UK, but we expect that will be reflected across the board. And you can make the caveat that New Super Mario Bros. U launched alongside the Wii U, so it was a brand new system with a very small install base, but at the same time it also launched during the best sales season of the year as compared to a mid-January launch. So you can go back and forth on that, but regardless, the increase and the improvement is there, and you can't deny that. Let's go to Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, a game that fell under the radar on Wii U and then outsold the Wii U version in 2 weeks on Switch. These numbers are from Japan back during the game's launch in May of 2018. It was reviewed super well when it launched initially in 2014 and again when it launched in 2018. But here you go, selling way better right out the gates. In fact, it was the best-selling game in all of Japan for May, even though it was a port. And I'll take you to Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, which I would say is probably one of the smaller ports on Switch. A great game, but one that doesn't get the fanfare maybe of DKC Tropical Freeze or even New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. Hey, guess what? It sold so much better during its first week on Switch than it did on Wii U. Giving you specific numbers from Japan: 28,000 on Wii U during its first week, 41,000 on Switch. It's undeniable.
Absolutely, Zach, and it's kind of interesting how the Switch has kind of become almost a do-over platform for Nintendo. So many of their great games from the Wii U, a platform that was overlooked and kind of tossed aside. Now they have a chance to relive some of these things that would have been successful in the first place, and they're finding a new audience, and that's clear. And the games are still quality. They still hold up. Metacritic, they are all very close, if not exceeding the original releases as well.
Before we get into the Metacritic scores, let me just regale you with even more Switch over Wii U port perfection. Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition sold incredibly well on Switch. Again, it was the third best-selling title the month it released, only below God of War and FIFA 18, beating out titles like Far Cry 5, Assassin's Creed Origins, Nintendo's own Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and Koei Tecmo said that they were super surprised by the sales. In fact, they raised their income forecasts a couple of months ago for last year because of that game, that it sold way more than they initially predicted, especially in the West. And if you look at Metacritic, I find it impressive that the games seem to grow and they age so well, and that's one of the reasons that these ports for Nintendo continue to perform exceptionally. They're evergreen. Captain Toad Treasure Tracker launched on Wii U at an 81 on Metacritic. It re-releases on Switch at an 82. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze launches at an 83 on Metacritic, re-releases on Switch to an 86. Hyrule Warriors, granted the non-definitive edition, on Wii U, 76. Comes back on Switch with bonus content, 78. New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe did see a bit of a dip from an 84 to 80, but nonetheless, these games are of such quality that alongside the sales, it's really hard to resent them being ported when they're still so good.
Yeah, these games are holding up, and they're not like super old. The Wii U is just one generation ago, and we see a lot of re-releases and remasters on other platforms from multiple publishers, really. And it often does hold up, so that doesn't surprise me in the slightest. And for me, it's a little trivial, like a jump from like an 81 to like an 83. Like it's just a couple of points. It doesn't matter as much. Like the range are also there, but it is cool to see that they do hold up quality wise.
Yeah, I think it just goes to show it's not just name alone. It's not just a dearth of content. It's, hey, these are actually quality products that were quality when they first came out and still quality to this day. Now, there is the Wii U conundrum, as you referenced earlier, of this console that was just kind of a flop. And so these games get a second chance, and maybe that plays into the numbers, right? So the numbers are better. The Switch is a much more popular console with so much more enthusiasm behind it, so the numbers should be higher compared to something that was deflating from the first day it popped. Nonetheless, you've got these ports, and we constantly say, like, okay, is the era of ports on Switch over? If you're Nintendo, and maybe even if you're a fan or a player, do you really just cut the ports off when they do this darn well, and when they're being purchased at this crazy quantity?
When you stop and think about it, video games, although we love them, are still a business. And these ports cost less money to make than a brand new game would. And they are coming back and selling stronger than they ever did. So it makes sense for Nintendo to keep making them as much as they can, at least, for their big franchises. I wouldn't be surprised at a Super Mario Maker port. I wouldn't be surprised at a Wonderful 101 port. Things like that are big and unique to what the Wii U did and can still somehow come over to the Switch. I feel like Nintendo would almost be foolish not to, because they do so well, and the investment into creating them is way lower. So people want them, and that's apparent.
Does this come as a surprise to you at all? Like, if we had a crystal ball and looked to the future back at the launch of Nintendo Switch and said 2 years down the road, there still will be these Wii U ports, and hold on, they will sell so well that they'll be eclipsing their Wii U counterparts in a matter of weeks. Would you have blinked at that? Would you have guffawed? Would you have been shocked?
It's surprising, yes. But once you look at the why, it makes sense. So it does surprise me. I wouldn't have believed you probably if you told me that on the onset that's how it was going to go. But I mean, it's undeniable, right? That there is a thirst for this, and people don't seem to mind replaying games like we do. I think you and I mind it a little bit more than most other people do, because I know, especially you hate replaying things. Like you hate rewatching things. You don't like experiencing anything more than once. You eat a new food every single day of your life.
It's not that crazy, but you're right. I think something about the Nintendo stuff just makes it way easier to swallow, and combining that with the Wii U and how that cycle went, I still am surprised. I still am surprised to see that they continue to do this well. At launch, okay, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe coming over, that makes sense. But now into year 2 and almost into year 3, the fact that everything shows that these will continue to do this well as long as Nintendo wants to put them out and wants them to do well, that's remarkable. And I think it speaks not only to the resurgence that the Switch has created for Nintendo, but just how good the games Nintendo has made have been, even if there wasn't the sales hullabaloo around them. They have been doing great stuff. I mean, they always have, but their franchises have hit sweet spots over and over again the last 2 generations. It puts me in such a tricky spot because my brain says no more ports. We want original games. We want new content. It's silly to buy things twice, especially for those of us that did dive heavily into the Wii U ecosystem. But yet I get these games. We've been playing New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, and it's undeniably fun. The challenges are so stupendous, and I've been playing more Captain Toad Treasure Tracker just because I forgot about that game when it launched on Switch last year. I even went back and I was watching some of my old gameplay from Super Mario 3D World, and I was like, you know what? This game has insane merit. It's very different from Mario Odyssey. Kind of wish I could replay it on Switch. So there is this internal double-edged sword, catch-22, split dichotomy of what the heck do we do and how do we feel when these games are so good, They're selling so well. They are supporting and elevating the system. We know that we are getting plenty of new from Nintendo, so maybe it's not so bad. I think that I'm feeling warmer towards ports after Mario U Deluxe and how much fun I've had. I don't want Nintendo to go port crazy, but you're right. Wonderful 101, bring it over. Mario Maker, yes please. And maybe even give us, a little bit of a pseudo port with a Skyward Sword HD. These games, they do so well, and that will only help the Switch continue to succeed. It's really hard to argue when you see the facts presented before you and you see the feels that these games are causing among Switch owners.
For sure. Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe definitely opened my eyes to Nintendo ports in particular. There are third-party ports that are coming to Switch that, I don't have a ton of interest in, but for Nintendo-specific ones, especially because the Wii U was so undervalued, at least in my household, I have no problem with them, I guess, going forward. I was skeptical about, Deluxe Mario, and it ended up surprising me pleasantly to a lot of people's dismay. So that changed my opinion fully. So I'm all for it. The ones we mentioned, Wonderful 101, Super Mario Maker, we want those.
Yeah, and I do feel that there is a gap forming between how I and it seems like the general audience receives first-party ports versus third-party ports, and maybe it just speaks to the impeccable quality and the gameplay hands on the controller centric focus that these Nintendo titles have. But I would love Mario Maker. I'm not so hot on some of the old third-party games that are coming to Switch. I would really like to see, even Pikmin 3 or Mario 3D World get another shot, but I don't really care if Ubisoft or, the big one is like Saints Row the Third coming to the console. That doesn't do anything for me. So maybe it's okay to have a different philosophy depending on who's making the game and who's bringing it over. But let us know how you feel about all of this port stuff now that we're in 2019. As of right now, no Nintendo ports on the horizon, but it seems like one is going to be announced soon. If there is indeed a January Direct, I feel like it will be hard to escape that presentation without one, but maybe that's a good thing. Let us know your take in the comments down below, everybody. Very curious to hear how you feel about all of this. Hit that like button if you enjoyed the video and are pumped to see what Nintendo brings our way, brand new and ported. For myself and Gabe, though, have a fantastic day, everybody. Until next time, make sure to subscribe to stay up to date on the latest and greatest from the Switch and its lineup. We've got you covered. For now, though, SwitchForce out.